There has been, in the sense that if the donations exceed the change cost, some of the other volunteers will get a payment, if you want to call it that.
And have those payments been substantial or not?
They've been very minimal. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, the donations we receive, I would say are not that much.
Can you estimate what we're talking about?
I mean, maybe a few $100s, but I feel like that their net earnings would probably be less than $400 this year. So,
Now, as I understand the prior testimony from the Park Enforcement officers, the primary complaint is that they are being followed too closely or videotaped too closely. Now, let's start with the videotape. Have you yourself done any videotaping?
yes, I do videotape, and I do it for 3 reasons. Number one, if something's interesting happening downtown, it's interesting to get footage. Number two, I do it because I want to get the word out about my political message. I want people to know what I'm doing. And most importantly, I videotape for accountability reasons. I feel like if there is ever an incident between any of the parking enforcement officers or myself, or even members of the public, I'd like there to be an objective record that, as we've been hearing throughout this hearing, eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. So, even with Pete Ayer, he didn't recall the one incident between Jane and himself.
In terms of when you're videotaping a park enforcement officer, typically how far away from that person are you?
I mean, I typically, I guess my ideal distance would be I'd like to be 10 feet in front of them. And on a given day, I can show videos. I don't even have the camera pointed at them for the most part. I'm just holding it down by my side in my hand. So I'm just running it so there'll be an audio record, or if I do need video, that will be available too.
Now, in terms of the filling of meters, you said you only want to fill the meters that in fact might potentially lead to somebody getting parking.
Yes, sir.
How do you go about doing that? How do you know which meters are likely to lead to the issuance of parking?
I would say a lot of it has to do with experience. So for the most part, I know that if a vehicle is not marked with a handicap placard and it's in a 2-hour time limit, a 2-hour meter, and the meter is expired, it doesn't have time left on it, that vehicle is likely to receive a ticket.
Do you typically walk in front of or behind or next to the park enforcement officer?
I would like to be in front of them so I can fill meters along the path, if you will.
Is there some reason why that doesn't necessarily work?
Unfortunately, the parking enforcement officers, often they will change directions. I believe it's an attempt to issue tickets where, they have in the past walked in a straight line, and sometimes they've even told me where they're going. Like Alan and Jane have both done that to me, or for me, I guess. But, I'd like to be in front of them, and if they come to like a corner or something where let's say there's 3 ways they can go, I may slow down and wait to see which way they're gonna go.
If they follow regular, predictable routes, as you say they have on occasion, would you need to be behind?
That's one remedy that I have talked to Jane about in the past. I feel like if they had an established route that they were required to follow, generally speaking, I realize that it's probably impractical to have a route that is set in stone, but if they kind of did a loop or something that was very predictable, I wouldn't mind being in front of them, because ultimately my goal is to prevent or reduce the number of tickets being issued by the city. I think I've talked to Alan about that too. I think I have a record of that.
Now, can you describe the types of verbal exchanges you've had with the 3 officers?
I would say for the most part, I typically don't talk to the PEOs. As Jane mentioned, Generally, Jane will often start conversations with me, and I have a video that I'd like to play later of some of that going on, where I'm just walking, doing my thing, and she's talking to me. She's starting conversations. I would say initially, Alan was not very talkative. He eventually kind of opened up and he began talking to me. Linda she's said maybe a few words to me. I generally don't speak to her at all. I would say I do the most talking with Jane, so.
When you say Jane starts conversations, why does she start conversations?
You know, just whatever, like, you know, maybe she'll see something interesting, or she asks me my view. As she mentioned, she's also talked about religion with me. That was one interesting conversation I had with her. She's asked me about my views and political beliefs. So I would say that besides the one exchange that she mentioned on April 27th, I believe, for the most part, it has been very positive. You know, I try to be, I'm generally kind of a soft-spoken guy, but, you know, if they want to talk, I'll talk to them.
And what happened in that conversation April 27th?
So earlier in that morning, I had seen some people park in the Gilbo lot, and they were very nicely dressed. And I could hear like bells going off at St. James Church. So I asked them what was going on, and they told me it was a World War II veteran's funeral. And so later on in the day, I encountered Jane issuing tickets to their vehicles. And there was a lot of out-of-towners, people not even in New Hampshire, a lot of people had come. And so I informed Jane that you're issuing tickets to people who are at a funeral. At that point, she told me that the reason that she was doing that was because because of me, she couldn't issue tickets at metered spots, because I would put money in and not let her do that, or something to that effect.
So where did the conversation go from there?
I would say it deteriorated quite a bit. I don't remember exactly what was said, but at some point Jane called me a terrorist, and she told me that I need to look up the word anarchy in the dictionary, that I'm an anarchist. And I asked her, you know, have I ever told you I'm an anarchist? And I would say it's definitely a very heated verbal exchange. I don't remember exactly what was said, but I was recording at the time, so I suppose we could retrieve the video.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier conversation with Jane that you recorded. What was that conversation about?
Which one? I'm sorry.
You mentioned earlier conversation. Was there a conversation you had with her about her interaction with Mr. Colson?
There was. So one day, I don't remember where it was. It was definitely after the lawsuit was filed. I had kind of brought up the topic of Graham allegedly grabbing Jane's arm, and I indicated to her that if that did occur, you know, I thought it was unacceptable. And actually, the day that it happened, I guess my understanding is it happened on Roxbury Street. I actually went down there and I looked for security cameras, because I wanted footage of it. Like if Graham had done something, you know, I don't want to associate with the guy. So, unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, there are no security cameras on Roxbury Street. But I did make an attempt. I was hoping there'd be a bank or something that would possibly have footage of it.
Did you make a video of your conversation with Jane?
I did.
Can you please play that for us?
Yes.
Again, he'll go so you can see it.
Yeah, if councils want to move, get in position to be able to see it as well. If you wouldn't mind just tilting it a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Thank you.
I'm gonna turn the sound up too.
That's what I mean by like a double standard. I don't think it's like a. See, I guess the idea behind government is they're supposed to protect your rights, right? And clearly, there's been cases where our rights have been violated. People have aggressed against us and nothing happened. That's true, but there is no video evidence of it. you, I agree, that 100%, that's unacceptable.
But, I mean, I did
I
admit
wasn't
to the, I
there.
did admit to the police officer when, because they kind of made me before. But I said, I didn't feel threatened, and it wasn't like he hurt me, it was, you know, sometimes you just gotta reflex, and it was a reflex to stop me from grabbing the card, was what it was. And I said, he didn't hurt me, I didn't feel threatened. And that's why I looked at it the same day.
Well, when Graham actually told me about it, he said it happened on Rock Street.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, or
Okay.
Roxbury Maine.
I actually went down that afternoon and I went ahead and I looked for security cameras because I wanted to see. And I was gonna ask like the business, like, hey, if you guys have footage, I'd like to see it, you know, I'll pay you or whatever, because I wanted to see it. So I don't know if Graham's telling the truth, and that's why to me it's so vital to have video.
Yeah.
You know, it's always you versus him. Like, I can have a dash cam because
But it was actually a better thing if there wasn't, because the camera would have shown him grabbing my hand, and even though it wasn't in a threatening manner, it still would have been assault.
Yeah.
And they could have overruled me on after, you know, so they could have not listened to what I said, just because they had it.
So did he grab the card or did he grab you?
He grabbed my wrist, but it
Okay.
wasn't in a, like I said, it wasn't in a way, and I mean, it hurt me or anything. He didn't hurt me. He grabbed my hand, I said, let go of me right now, and he instantly did.
So I guess in his mind, then he was like trying to defend on his property. Is that-
Yeah, he was trying to, I had been grabbing the cards, I instigated it, and it got to him, and he went to stop me from grabbing another card. And grabbed me, but like I said, it wasn't in, you know, a rough manner by any means, and I didn't feel threatened, and I didn't feel that it was really an assault. Then,
Well, you know,
in a casual conversation, I mentioned it, and I immediately told him.
Yeah, and I don't know, I guess, you know, I appreciate like, you're not escalating or anything. I try to like come from forgiveness, so. Yeah, I've definitely, not even robbed, you know, I had some cop block one night outside the bar. Some girl got arrested for underage drinking. So I was like filming it. Her boyfriend was drunk, got attacked.
Is this the end of it?
The guy, no, she attacked Garrett. He dragged Garrett, and I intervened, like, not pushing him away. But, like, even though he wronged Garrett, I both forgave him. I think I've seen this. Yeah, that's the thing, too. Like, I always ask the cops, like, come on, like, you guys drink underage. Can you just take them home? Like, don't take them to the station. Like, come on. I know, I sure sell drink underage. I mean, it's great. I won't say everyone does it. Some people like my mom, she won't drink at all. Or she'll have like a glass of wine, maybe a couple times a year. I mean, we're pretty much, she's the rarity, I would say.
Is there anything
There's
more
not
to
too many
read?
people who drink
I think we're kind of
Not really,
off the
sir.
point.
Well, I think it's
I
I'm concerned about the tone as much as the substance. Thank you. Your Honor, can I have that committed as plaintiff's exhibit, defendant's exhibit 1?
Any objection?
No, sir. No, sir.
Is there a separate, actually, is it named in the desk that you have?
I can provide that too. I don't have a disc with me.
We'll provide it.
Defendant's exhibit
It's just
A,
on my phone,
it'll
right?
be defendant's exhibit A, it's a full exhibit.
James, the city is essentially proposing in this proceeding that court order some type of discipline limitation between you and other Robin Hood activists and parking enforcement officers. There's been suggestions at various times that distance should be 50 feet, 30 feet, 10 feet, etc. What would be the practical effect of a distance limitation on your ability to
I think make it a lot more difficult to effectively fill the meters and, prevent tickets from being issued. Because like I said in that one example, if I come up to a corner where there's, let's say, 3 ways they can go, since I don't know where they're going, I have to wait for them, and a few times they have indicated to me in the past where they're going. Like, I remember once out in City Hall, Alan told me that he was gonna cross the street and go in front of the white church. And so, I just continued on my way because he told me where he was going. I mean, my goal is to fill the meters that would have been ticketed.
The conversation that you had with the park enforcement officer in the video we just watched, approximately how far away